Let's ask another question. I love asking questions. Are you afraid of extraterrestrials? Think about that question for a minute. Truly, truly think about it. Many people will say no. Many people will say yes. Most of the people that say no, who aren't doing the spiritual work and aren't working through their shadow self, their darkness, their traumas, all of that, their yes is an optimistic yes. Their yes is an optimistic yes because they've been programmed to fear extraterrestrials. And people want to experience them. They want to see the benevolent side. They want the magic of the experience, but they don't understand the fear that comes with it. And in the moment, for years, if somebody asked me that question over the years, do you want to experience extraterrestrials? Are you afraid of them? Absolutely not. I'd love to experience them. I didn't know what that truly meant when I asked that question to myself years later, now that I do know. When I was going on my journey, I didn't know ETs were around. I thought Fae were around. I have a lot of experiences that many of you have probably heard, and I'll publish later on too, about how I thought a lot of my ET experiences were actually Fae experiences. Never thought ETs were around. For years, I researched in college, not necessarily ETs, but like ancient archaeology, mythology, those types of things. Always thought ETs were real. But I hit this point where I realized when it came to abduction scenarios, when it came to a lot of horror movies with ETs and different things, I had a lot of fear around them. There's a movie called The Fourth Kind, many of you may know, about scenarios in Alaska that were where people were abducted, and they used the doctor's clinical notes to create that movie. Bought that movie when it came out, or I should say I burned it to a CD back in the days of burning to CDs and that sort of thing, or DVD, probably a CD. And had it for, I don't know, it was years. I had it for years before I watched it. Anytime I tried to watch something about abduction, I would get a very uncontrolled fear that would climb through me. Paralyzing fear, terrifying fear, a fear I cannot describe to you to this day. There's just not words to describe it. Beyond fear, beyond fear. And I came to a point in my journey where I stopped researching for a variety of reasons, mainly because I had lost trust. I had lost faith in things. I was in a relationship that was eating my energy for 11 years and didn't realize how that was affecting my vibration until much later on. And I just had a lot of issues around ETs and studying them, and just pushed it off to the side, not realizing why I really pushed it off to the side, but just thinking I'm just not going to research right now, and I just don't have the motivation to do it. That wasn't the case. The real reason was fear. Years later, when my guides said sit down and meditate, and let me be clear, they had been telling me to meditate for 10 years before I finally sat down again to do it. I had an awakening where it scared the hell out of me, and I just stopped doing it and went into lazy mode basically for 10 years. Finally sat down and started meditating, and they guided me. They're like, okay, you enjoy researching, you enjoy seeking, you enjoy watching these documentaries on this stuff. Why don't you go watch this documentary on Netflix called Hangar One? So I watch it. And the first episode is about, I think, if I remember right, it was about presidents and UFO abductions and a couple other things. I could be wrong on that. It's been a long time. I don't remember exactly, but I remember the first episode triggered something about abductions. I watched it with this sense of dread in me, but I was fascinated with it And it reminded me of every time I watched documentaries in the past, or even watching the X-Files, the old X-Files show, which is amazing. But watching that, in the sense of dread I would have while watching those shows and not understanding it. And I went on and finished the episode. I went back to my bed and fell asleep. And I was in this stage of awakening where I had been meditating. Guides had been working on my energy. And I had memories just come back to realization, where come back into my mind, where there was a Zeta standing beside me. There were these three beings, I think there were three of them, who were bigger than him with massive heads. And to date, I think they've called themselves Zeta Primes when I've run into them only a few more times. And I remember feeling the fingers of the Zeta holding my hand and telling me, feeling love coming from them, and concern, and like empathy, that I was afraid. But I could feel their hand. I had this memory of feeling their hand, and their hand in my hand, like trying to calm me while I was on a table, a lab table. I woke up from that and I was terrified, absolutely terrified beyond anything. I could not believe what I had experienced and was remembering, and immediately stopped watching the documentaries. Couldn't do it anymore, even though my guides were telling me to. And then I had a client from web development who was a spiritual guide. And for years, I had started typing out an email about, hey, I have these experiences. I might want to do work with you. And I have some questions. Can we talk? And then I'd always delete it, and I wouldn't be comfortable sending it, and that sort of thing, because I wasn't comfortable sharing that with anybody. Nobody knew except for my ex knew a lot about it. My partner at that time, she knew a lot. And some of my close friends knew that, hey, Will, he's intuitive. He sees things every once in a while. He's kind of crazy, and you get the labels and stuff put on you too. And so I finally sat down, and my guides went, email her. I emailed her. We got on a call. Tell her about my experiences, my past. And I go, there's this really weird thing happening. I'm starting to have memories that, some of my memories I thought were dreams, they turn out to be real. And I'm starting to have memories awaken within me that are feeling very real about abduction and those sorts of things. She goes, what do you have to fear? And I went, what do you mean? She goes, you went through that experience. She goes, I've been through them too. I've been through them and all that sort of thing, and the terror and all that. But you had that experience. You are back here. You're alive. You're healthy. You're continuing your life on it without interruption. All these different things that she said. She goes, what do you have to be afraid of? And I thought about it, and I instantly went, huh. And it all went poof and disappeared. All that fear disappeared. And I was like, oh, that's true. Wow, what do I have to fear? I don't have anything to fear. I'm still here. It completely changed the ability to experience ETs, to remember the experiences, to have them around, and that sort of thing. And before that happened, some of my physical encounters had happened too, where if you hear about the hand phasing through the wall, through the sliding glass door, we had a wall that was like a sliding glass door. That hand phasing through, and some of the other encounters had happened before this that were ramping up my fear too. And she was like, you have nothing to fear. And I went, yeah, you're right, I don't. But had I not released that fear, experiencing them truly and fully would have been extremely difficult. And because I had that fear, I completely misunderstood my experiences of being on the tables. I had more experiences later where they walked me around the ship that I had supposedly been on as a kid, and showed me things and said, you might remember stuff. Do not be afraid. As you remember, we're showing you so we know these technologies exist, and these different things that we do. Had I not released the fear and misunderstanding around what I was doing, I would not be able to do this work and continue it. And as I'm talking about this, it's interesting. I can see my image on the camera here as I look at the actual lens, and there's a zeta image appearing on the camera behind me. So I don't know if that translates on the video. Probably not. It's probably more mental, but they're checking in as I talk. And so the fear is something I had to give up. I had to live through it. I had to free myself of it to be able to experience these beings, to be able to attract more of them. And I didn't know in the moment I was afraid of them. If you asked me the question, are you afraid of extraterrestrials? I'd be like, no, absolutely not. I would love to meet one. I would love to meet one. But until you're in that moment of understanding, did you have experiences that maybe you repressed or don't remember? Maybe there are traumatic fears you have to get over, low vibrational things. Maybe you have to get past programming. Programming is a huge thing. The programming of Hollywood, the media, politicians, religions, all of this. If you have a lot of programming, you might have to work through that programming to work through the fear, because we are told from a time as children, these beings are not real. And then a lot of cultures, a lot of religions, a lot of these control structures teach us from the time we're children that if you do experience a being that is not, say, an angel, it's automatically the D word. It's automatically something malevolent, something not of your highest good. It's just not true. So we have to work through fear. We have to deprogram ourselves. We have to work through our traumas. We have to understand that as we wake, we might remember experiences that trigger things that we didn't know we experienced in ways that we didn't understand, that created fear, that created anxiety and worry around these encounters. So ask yourself, are you afraid of extraterrestrials? And really, really be truthful with yourself and understand that even when you say, no, I'm not afraid of them, there are going to be times that you have extraordinary fear running through you because you meet something that is so different in vibration that it's polarizing to you. That does not mean it's malevolent. It's just a different vibration. It's one you haven't felt before. It's why I talk about in many of my videos on social media and stuff about working with gods who we tune over time, because to be in their presence is so drastically different that if they were in our presence, their presence would make us ill or would make us run in fear, because the vibration is so different and we're not used to it. So in order to do work with us, they tune us. We tune over time to their energy, just like you would tune anything over time by just being near it and getting used to it, type of thing. It's a learning process. But if we do it all at once, it can be like if you're in the woods and you experience a being, high vibrational being just floating around, which can happen. If an angel just comes in, I've had angels come in where my body vibrates like an earthquake. That will scare people. And a lot of people will say, no, I'm not afraid of other beings. And that may be true on a base level. But until you're in those moments, you don't understand how you're going to, how your body's going to react. So it's up to you to learn, okay, am I afraid? To clear the trauma and clear the fear. If you have any fear, any past fear, or any programmed fear. And then after you do that, to understand that fear is still something you will biologically experience in the presence of other beings. And it is up to you to learn how to respond and react in those, or how to respond versus react in those moments, so that you respond and you go, okay, my body is telling me this. My body is telling me I should be afraid. Why is it telling me that? Is it legitimate? Because it can tell you that. It can tell you you should be afraid because this is not a good energy. But typically, you're going to feel that in different chakra points and sense it intuitively. You're not going to feel it as a full body emotion. Fear from a full body emotion is, from my standpoint, typically a vibrational thing. Typically, one of those vibrational things where you're like, oh my, literally, oh my God, there's a God standing right beside me, and I feel like an ant, and they could just squeeze down with their thumb and squish me out of existence. That is a physical response to a vibrational difference, and is something we have to get used to. It's something that, as you work with these beings and work through these exercises in the future, that in the future lessons, to remember, always ask questions, always work through your fears and that sort of thing to keep yourself moving forward to a more of a responsive way of acting versus a reactionary emotional way of acting. And to remember that when you ask questions, you're not just asking it of outside world stuff, you're asking it of yourself too. So that when you experience something, you can sit down and you can go, okay, clear my mind. There's something here. Is it good? Is it bad? Is the fear warranted? What am I feeling? Or is it triggering something I haven't healed yet that I have to deal with? So that's my little, lesson about fear. And are you afraid of extraterrestrials? Or you could add on to that angels, interdimensionals, faeries, etc., etc., etc. But the idea is to understand that even if you say, yes, I am not, or no, I am not afraid of extraterrestrials, you might still have hidden layers of fear you don't understand. And if you say, yes, I am, then it's up to you, you already know, to deprogram yourself from the reasons why you're afraid and to heal any traumas around it. When you do that, they will come to you because they don't want you to be afraid. Benevolent beings do not want you to be afraid. They want to be able to approach you with love and to be able to say hello and work with you and have an interaction. Benevolent beings are not going to come to you in a way that is purposely fearful. And if they know you're afraid, it's going to be very baby steps. They're gonna appear very like briefly, flashes, memories, small dream fragments, all these different things in baby steps before you actually get to talk to them and have an encounter. So it's all about working through that fear so that you can experience with them in a safe place of love versus a low vibrational, distrusting, misunderstood space of fear. So thank you again for watching. I'm grateful for each and every one of you, and we'll continue with the next lesson.